Okay, welcome back guys to our tutorial. So first thing I'm going to delete all this stuff, all these comments here, so that you'll be able to see what we're doing here. Okay, now declaring a variable. C++ is a strongly typed language and require every variable to be declared with its type before its first use. This informs the compiler the size to reserve in memory for the variable and how to interpret its value. The syntax to declare a new variable in C++ is straightforward. We simply write the type followed by the variable name, its identifier. Okay, for example, let me remove this line of code. Okay, then let's declare a variable called int x. So now we have declared a variable called int x. Let's declare also a variable called int y. Okay, so now these are two valid declaration of variables. The first one declare a variable of type int here, and let's change this to float. Okay, so float y. The second one declares a variable of type float with an identifier of named y. Once declared, the variable x and y can be used within the rest of their scope in the program. If declaring more than one variable of the same type, they can all be declared in a single line, in a single statement, by declaring their identifier with comma. For example, like instead of if we have this as int of type int, so instead of rewriting this in separate line like this, declaring them in separate line like this, we could also just write them in one line because they are having the same type, and just giving and place a comma at the middle. So it's like variable x is of type int and variable y is of type int. Okay, so it's the same thing as this here. Okay, and to see what variable declaration looks like in action within a program, let's have a look at the entire C++ code of the example about your mental memory proposed at the beginning of this chapter. Okay, so now after we create, now let's create a program that will calculate some stuff. Okay, let me just add here, let me comment something here. Operating with variables. Okay, then so here we are declaring a variable, so I'm just commenting so that you get what I'm doing. Declaring variables. Okay, so this variable x will use it to store some value, and y to store a value. Then let's create another variable called int of type int results. Let me see, results. So this will be the result of x minus y. Okay, so now let's go and process. So we say a is x is equal to 5, y is equal to 2. So now let's add 1 to x. Okay, so by saying x is equal to x. Okay, these are just mathematics. Plus 1. Okay, so now we add 1 to the number x. So now x is equal to 6 and not 5. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do, let's let's minus y from x by doing, and store it in the variable results. Okay, by doing results is equal to x, which is equal to the content of x, okay, minus content of y. Yeah, so now result is having x minus y, okay, which is 6 minus y. So now if we want to output this result on the screen, we can just do like this, results, which means we are this output this into the screen. Okay, so if we run this, we are going to have the result of 4, number 4. Okay, you can see it's number 4 as our result. So let's write a sentence to this stuff that we're doing, like okay, I'm just gonna do that later. But so now let's talk about don't be worried if something else than the variable declaration themselves look a bit strange to you. Most of it will be explained in more detail in coming chapters. So now let's talk about initialization of variables. When the variables in the example above are declared, they have an undetermined value. Here, when the variables are declared, we don't even know the variables the values that we stored in them. They are undetermined value until they are assigned a value in here. Okay, but it is possible for a variable to have a specific value from the moment it is declared. This is called the initialization of the variable. In C++, there are 3 ways to initialize variables. They are all equivalent and are reminiscent of the evolution of the language over the years. The first one, known as C-like initialization, which is by doing this, x is equal to 0. This is derived from C language. And the second way of initializing a variable is by doing given a parenthesis and 0 inside the parenthesis. Okay, and the third way to initialize a variable is just like this. Okay, so now what we are doing here is that we are saying, let's create a storage name x that is having as default 0 as default. Okay, so we give it a number or a value instead of making it an undetermined number. So this is the same thing as this other program. If we run it now, it's going to produce the same effect. Okay, result 4. So now let's change this a little bit by doing let's say, let's write result is equal to, or is, okay, let's say the result is, give it a space, and then now put this sign again and write results. Okay, results. Now, so what the program will do is that it's going to output result is 4 into the screen. So if you run it now, it's going to say result is 4. Okay, you can see it, result is 4. The reason why we did this in let me see, in these 2 ways, that result here is just a number, it's a variable. So a variable